The main question is, are you an average Joe? Me, I'm a completely average Chase. On a hotness scale, 6.5, 7. 7.5 on a good day. Chase Lee Hockey here with a Blue Futon reviewing Average Joe. So what's this about? This is a pretty simple premise. This is based off a true story. What's the guy's name? Totally forgot. Hope it's not Joe, because I'm going to be I'm going to laugh at it. There's no way it's Joe. Is it Joe? Come on, there's no way it's Joe. No way it's Joe. It is Joe. Ha. Ha. So, based on a true story of a Joe Kennedy. So, when he was a football coach at a high school, he decided to take a knee on the 50-yard line. And because of this, there are some non-religious people or atheist people that took offense to this because these people are watching him thinking he's coercing these high schoolers to pray with him. And because of that, he gets fired. And this is a case going to the Supreme Court. Will he win? Let's find out. So, did I like this film? I thought it was okay. So, maybe I just was expecting a little bit more from this movie. Maybe I was expecting more of the courtroom drama aspect of this movie, but I got something completely different. This is more of a documentary that has fake actors in it, but it's told in an interesting way of they're being interviewed like their story is becoming a movie. And I want to say two different sides because, like I said, there is something about the actions that are happening about Joe's life to lead to the football scene, as well as what happens after the football scene and what's happening to his wife. And the other part is him and his wife being interviewed that leads this story through this timeline of when Joe Kennedy was a kid to basically the court case in the Supreme Court. So some people might like that style of filmmaking, and some people might just want a more linear-esque storyline. I didn't mind it because it was kind of breaking the fourth wall, and I do enjoy breaking the fourth wall type of films. But I guess let's talk about the positives because I wouldn't say I'm really having a negative issue with this movie. I just think it's one of those ones where it's like, did this movie need to be made or should have been told in a different style of storytelling? But when it wanted to do the style of storytelling, I didn't mind it. Like I said, I thought it was pretty good. The acting, not bad. The set pieces, not bad. The overall aspect of what they're trying to do, yeah, like I said, it has some comedic moments, especially at the very beginning about the Humvee and the oil fields and being underwear. Like, I was like, what are we freaking watching? I was like, is this really average jokes? I really thought they had the wrong movie in the player on the projector, but I was wrong. This is produced by the people that did The Blind, and that is the Duck Dynasty movie about the main Phil Robertson, if not mistaken, of his life. And The Blind was a lot more serious of a movie, and this one is more of a comic relief slash, I'm going to call it superficial, but very surface level type of film because it's very by the books. What I guess I was expecting more of this film was the court case aspect and not the life of Joe Kennedy, which I didn't mind it because knowing him as a child of what he went through, I wasn't expecting that type of hardship, that type of blood. There's some good amount of abuse in this movie in the very beginning, which I understand why they wanted to tell it because this talks about him meeting his wife very early on in his life. And I found that interesting and fascinating. Then we get to him in the Marines, and I think that's not bad. There are some story elements of him in Iraq and him getting bombed, and there's good elements here and there about that. But I don't know. Just when you read the synopsis, you're expecting like the nitty gritty of what Joe Kennedy and his family went through throughout these multiple years of this, because it seemed like it was about an 8 or 9 year just total cluster of trying to get him this court case to the Supreme Court and understanding what is going through the Ninth Circuit, what is happening with his wife in this situation, which I want to know what happened to her kids because she was married before to an abusive husband, and I could have sworn she had 2 kids. Maybe I completely missed that part of the story, or maybe I was just, I was paying attention, but I just remember her like running away from her husband. She had 2 kids, but then throughout the whole movie, it's just Joe Kennedy and the wife, and then her as the superintendent in this district. But where did the kids go? Did I miss something? Did it go to the grandparents' house? And I just completely, it's like the dialogue went one ear and out the other. And I was like, what is happening? Also, I'm not going to say it looks cheap, but when you have movies like this being football themed and all the kids are really scrawny, yes, I understand that some of these smaller district schools don't have the beefier people. And you could talk about that even with college, with like, the smaller districts and not the Power Five conferences. If you have let's go a team like, I don't know, New Mexico State going up against Alabama, it ain't going to be pretty. The Air Force Academy versus Clemson, it ain't going to be pretty. So I understand that, but I just feel like all these were scrawny kids that didn't play football. They were more basketball players. And so when it came to this scene where they had to pull the sled on the football field, it took me out of the movie just because I'm like, yeah, that wasn't that really intense. Because the whole point of that movie or that part is, should this person be a team captain? And it really didn't give me that, oh yeah, he really should be team captain. I know how that correlates with something that happened to Joe Kennedy's past, but make it more like just intense, like a miracle, like Kurt Russell type of storytelling. Not, oh, we're going to run 20 yards and be like, whoa, buddy. And you're just like, okay, that took me out. But like I said, I was expecting courtroom drama. Yes, you got some interesting elements with him going up against some lawyers, what his wife had to go through, him talking to this random Thomas guy, which that felt kind of like, did this really need to be in this movie? Because all of it is a scene cutting to him messaging this person named Thomas, and I understand the point of trying to talk to people and how this isn't just about Christians. This could be about just religion in general, atheists in general. Like, believe what you want to believe, and you can do it in public, which understood it. But it was kind of like superficial, level-headed, and you're just like, that's really not what we are in today's day and age. Because if you try to talk to a vegetarian or an atheist, 9 out of 10 times, they're going to be the complete dickiest people you know. And when it does come to the courtroom drama stuff, it's not existent. Because I wouldn't say they took the cheap route and say, COVID, and they kind of did that. Well, I was just like, oh, we're going to, I understand this was during COVID. I understand that. But we're not going to understand what the Supreme Court justices were talking about, what the different lawyers were talking about. We're not going to have that lawyer talk. And like I said, there was a dialogue line in this movie where he's like, you really thought we were going to talk about this lawyer stuff? Haha. But here's Robinson family to kind of explain the case that trumped the 1971 case, which that was interesting, but I wanted to know more about it. I like courtroom drama stuff, kind of like the Joker 2 movie. That was the best part of the movie for me. So when we took that completely out of the movie, I was just like, oh, this is basically the story of Joe Kennedy, and we're not getting the core of this movie. So I was a little disappointed in that. Maybe I was expecting way too much from this film, but I was just like, I wanted more meat on the bone. I didn't get it. Also, when he's digging graves, I mean, I understand if he's in Florida, because there's a lot of sand in Florida when it comes to building houses and having a solid foundation, like packing the ground with sand and building a foundation because of flood zones. But you're in a grave site. Shouldn't it be more dirt than sand when you're digging a grave? I understand that it's probably easier to just put a shit ton of sand and then roll over it, but you're in Washington, I'm pretty sure, and it should be soil, not sand. So overall, average Joe, I understand what they're trying to do. I understand what they're going for, and it works to an extent. However, if we really want to talk about court cases and how this trumped the 1971 OG case, and how it sets this new precedent, I didn't get that information, unfortunately. So average Joe will receive a 2.5 out of 5 with Futon, because at 50%. Let's see what the critics and user scores gave this one. Critics, there's 4 of them. Audience scored 98% with over 250. And the critics, we have a positive, a negative, a positive, and a positive. So 75%, my 50, and the 98. Chase Leak here at the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of Futopia. You Blue Tony, think watch a great day. Watch us take tomorrow week from month on your every single freaking one of you. And yeah, like I said, it was acted solidly, had a good amount of humor, but I wanted more about the courtroom situations.